A man's razor can be his best friend or his worst enemy. It can promote great health, and it can also create great damage. How will your razor treat you?
Welcome back to Kayfabe Science, the only fake science show on the internet that thinks that Charles Darwin managed a stable consisting of Ric Flair, Randy Orton, Batista, and Triple H. I'm your host, Dr. Dave. Sliced like a ninja, cut like a razor blade, so fast other nerds say, damn, if Kayfabe Science was a drug, I'd sell it by the gram. Today's episode is The Razor's Edge. Razor Ramon has one of the most protected finishers in all of the WWF. The edge of both Razor and outsider variety have sliced many a man's hopes of victory into pieces. But how exactly does this razor cut so deep? Well, to find that out, we need to examine the science behind the cut. When it comes to how sharp a razor is, or any other blade for that matter, the sharpness of the edge has to do with how narrow you could get things down to. And what makes for a sharp edge is that the edge should be as thin as possible, but yet still strong enough to support itself and not break. This is accomplished by using a specific combination of metals that all contribute something to the final metal that is being used for a blade. And many will say the best metal to use is steel. But what kind of metals make up steel, and what do they do in the final blade? Well, I'm glad you asked. The bulk of a blade consists mostly of carbon steel, which itself consists mostly of iron mixed with carbon. The more carbon, the better the steel, because iron alone would just be too soft and not hard enough. Take that, Tony Stark. Seems like all that drinking finally caught up to you. Next up is chromium, a very common ingredient in blade building because chromium is what turns carbon steel into stainless steel. Although even under the right circumstances, all steels can technically rust, it should be noted that the more chromium that gets added to the mix makes the metal more prone to saying aloha to rust. Get it? Because steel is an alloy and aloha means goodbye? Oh wait, it also means hello too. Another common steel stuff is nickel, which adds toughness to the blade as well as keeping it elastic, because nobody wants a brittle blade. Just to be clear, that wasn't a knock on Wesley Snipes for wanting to play the Daywalker again at his age. And then there's also molybdenum, the metal that helps maintain a steel's strength at high temperatures. And it also helps to refine the grain of the metal. And the finer the grain, the finer the knife. And nothing could be finer than to have a grain refiner in the air. And then there's the big one, vanadium, which increases wear resistance and makes blades much harder, again through refinement. However, some manufacturers leave it out sometimes. For shame. And no, vanadium is not the name of the big space rock that fell onto Black Panther's country. But okay, now, how does all this knife science apply to a kayfabe knockout for the bad guy? Well, it's all about how you slice it. Because just like with the edge of a blade, Razor Ramon strains out his opponent's upper body into as thin a surface as possible, sharpening it, if you will. And just like with a real razor, this puts all of the pressure on the thinnest amount of surface area possible. So while a regular power bomb allows force to disperse and absorb throughout the entire back, a razor's edge puts all of the force onto the neck and upper arm area as Scott Hall stretches out his victim's top half. And with that much force, if the edge was any thinner, I'm pretty sure the bad guy might just be able to cut straight through the mat. Hey, maybe that's why they call the scapular the shoulder blade. Well, there you have it, just a little bit behind why the bad guy may be oozing machismo, but the razor's edge will always be oozing with the blood of its victims, which can only be stopped by tearing off little squares of toilet paper and then applying them right away.